So this whole time I've been out here talking to folks all across the country about Lunenburg County, and I've had some experiences, I've had some conversations, but Elspeth McLean-Weil has joined me, and so I'd love to get some insight as to what your experience has been since joining me on the tour, just to make sure that it's not just one voice or one point of view. That I'm interested to know what you think of our experience chatting here with people, just random people.
It's really funny because before I came, I hadn't really thought a lot about how people would respond and what I would say or what we'd actually do when we were out talking to people. And you and I talked a little bit about that, and what was the script. And so we worked a little bit at that over the first couple of, like maybe hour or something, and
right.
And then because I'm quite direct, I started asking people directly if they have ever thought about moving to Nova Scotia, and specifically to Lunenburg County. And you meet people randomly in a park or by a waterway or a lake, or people on holidays, and you ask them, and I thought, what are people going to say, and how would I feel if I was asked that? And I've been really overwhelmed by how open the conversation has been and how rich it's been in terms of what it tells us about how people perceive our province, and particularly our area, but also what makes people either connected to the community they live in, or what might make them think about moving to another area. And when we offer up the invitation of moving to our area, sometimes that's provoked really interesting and deep conversations that aren't like 1-minute encounters. They're 10, 15 minutes that with really interesting exchanges. So I guess the openness of people to really take time and spend with us, I've been surprised at that. Now, we've met people in settings where they've been relaxed, and I think that speaks to the importance of finding people in the right place to have those conversations. But I've also been really surprised at people's willingness to share the things that are important to them, and to really open up to total strangers asking them a very direct question.
It's really been interesting having you here. I think it's been awesome. Everyone has a different approach. When Andrew was here, Andrew Button was here, his approach was similar to yours. He was quite direct. I'm more of a relationship, let me kind of like feel you out and let's garner some kind of a relationship. I just think it's been awesome to watch your directness, because I think people appreciate that. Time is valuable. People appreciate not messing around and just getting right to the point. And it does open up this conversation about community and what is important in people's lives. And we've learned that family is quite important. Obviously, people talk about the weather. I know when I've been educating people a little bit on the misconceptions of the weather. It's not quite as tumultuous as some people, may have been led to believe. I mean, I think that we often, as you indicated, we often talk about something like a really bad situation that happened, and maybe that could have been white wine or something, and then we tend to focus on that. But that's not something that happens all the time. It happens, maybe once a decade or something. And same thing with the fisheries, where
somebody this morning talked about the failure of the fisheries, and that happened like so long ago. I almost it's probably 20 years. But he was marked by the failure of the fishery, and we know that the fishery has restructured itself, and in our area, lobster fishing's been very important. Scallop fishing's been very important. Underutilized species have been, discovered and marketed around the world, and fisheries have kind of restructured themselves. And now we've got some very successful fishing operations that people don't know. They're marked by that failure of the cod fishery.
Right.
So there's a lot of myths that people have, and I think part of what we need to be aware in talking to people is the myths that they may have. And we can't focus on that too much, but we have to recognize that part of the messaging that we convey about our area is that some of those things they believe to be true aren't. And one of them is that there aren't jobs.
Right.
they believe that people have left the area because there's no employment. And here we are out telling people that there are employment opportunities, there are business opportunities, there are businesses that need to be sold, and that people have opportunities to start new businesses. But that message isn't as evident to people. And even the gentleman we spoke with this morning talked about us as being kind of the best kept secret in the country, and that because our property values are significantly lower than many parts of the country, it is a bit of a kept secret. And we're now sharing that with other people. And that's probably one of the things that's really important for us to focus a bit on. Yeah, we want to preserve the things that we have, but we also know that if we don't bring people into the area and have a bigger talent pool to draw from, then the things that we hold dear to ourselves aren't going to be in the future.
They're at risk.
They're at risk. And so we need to be mindful of what our history is and the important things that we love and cherish about our area. But we also have to be willing to say, yes, we want to bring new people here, because that may be at risk if we don't have some younger people to fill the jobs, if we don't have younger families that fill our schools and contribute to the richness of the life that we all love in Lunenburg County.
So there's a huge, I've seen in doing this tour, there's a huge amount of myth busting or debunking some stereotypes about Lunenburg County and our entire province. You heard a lady refer, as soon as we said Nova Scotia, she said the Trailer Park Boys. And you know, we've had that happen many times. And with all due respect to the Trailer Park Boys, that is, you know, not a reality show. It's not what many of us experience or have experienced in their life, and people are, that's not, you know, behavior that we see all the time. And so
but it speaks to the success of our arts community.
Absolutely,
and
yeah,
our
for
film
sure.
community
For sure.
in being able to put together programming, and it reflects on the strength and
character
and artistry of the people.
Absolutely. It
So-
shows that there is opportunity for just creative people to tell a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but not just that, but the weather has been a big thing, and about the jobs and a bunch of different things that need to be retold. It's funny because I almost felt like maybe doing some myth busting before I even got on the tour would have made it so that when we approached people about the possibility of moving to Lunenburg County, they wouldn't have laughed. Like, we got a lot of laughter
Yes,
and
we
chuckle,
do.
like, oh, that's kind of absurd, and maybe it is, to some, you know.
And others said,
absolutely.
yes, I have thought about
Yes.
it. And we've gone, okay.
Yeah.
And others have said, no, not on your life.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of half and half.
It has, and what's been really great, even talking to the people who are not really open, you found them kind of warming up to the idea as you talk to them. Like, well, you know, actually, I'm not like completely closed to it, or my sister-in-law lives there, or she's from there, and she loved it, and it does start opening up that conversation, and then after a while, it wasn't as absurd a notion as they thought it was, you know, initially.
That has surprised me, how people have really warmed up as the conversation evolves, because it can go two ways. If you ask the question, have you thought about moving to Lunenburg County, and they say no, not on your life, then you pursue the idea of, well, what is it that keeps you here? And if they say, actually, I have, or, you know, I might consider it, then that takes you down another whole conversation.
sure.
And we're well prepared to discuss both sides. And so in the end, you leave with having had an interesting encounter with somebody. You haven't really offended anybody by asking them. And they actually, you know, it's one of those encounters that maybe because people don't normally do that in a park, they're going to remember that these crazy ladies from Nova Scotia asked them in a park if they ever thought about moving. So I think there's a bit of a legacy to it as well.
For sure. I'll never forget leaving for the tour, and I had a few people say to me, do you actually think people are just going to let you drive on up in your bowler and do you think they're going to let you just approach their people and take their people? And I remember thinking, oh, well, you know, of course they would. I'm so charming. Why wouldn't they? And so I did not expect for people to be so welcoming and giving to me. And basically, we had town officials offering me intel on where I should go and which parks I'd find the young families, and basically recognizing that you're not going to make anyone leave this community and move, but if people are thinking about it, why wouldn't you give them the opportunity to educate them a little bit, or tell them about your community if they were thinking of leaving, or if they're transient, or every few years they do kind of want to discover a new community? Why wouldn't you? So I found that really amazing, how willing people were to tell me where I ought to go. Or we never had a situation where we were told to leave, except in one community in Vancouver where we were at a market. And I get it, like we didn't pay the fee or get the permit or whatever, so we just went to another area and paid for parking. It was fine. So I found that kind of telling, and I can't wait to go back and share that story, because I think that it might be surprising to a few people.
Here in Orillia, we went to the public library here,
Yes.
talked to the librarians,
Yeah.
and they were very generous. They said, oh sure, you can leave your brochures here, which is all about moving to Lunenburg County. And we left them in the public library. We spoke with the lady on the street who had been involved in town council here. She wasn't a councillor, but she was a staff person. She worked for an NGO here in Orillia. And I mean, she was very open about discussing the challenges of this community, and she wasn't in any way offended by the fact or threatened by us being there. In fact, I think she was quite intrigued by it. And she's talked a lot about the challenges in Orillia and what people love about here. And I found people very generous, to the point of being a bit surprising at how interested people are in what we're trying to do, and in fact, in some ways, we've met people that are very supportive.
We met with a gentleman who was so excited about what we were doing. He said he's been after, he's all about this, going out and looking for people and bringing them, and that Canada as a country needs to be doing this, kind of to try to grow our population as a country, and how his goal was to grow it to 100 million, or that
he was interested in coming to Nova Scotia.
Absolutely. He said, when we asked, have you ever thought of moving to Nova Scotia? He said, absolutely, in a heartbeat. They pretty much stopped their lunch to talk to us about this, and it was really, really quite amazing.
And they were in the right demographic.
100%. Three
small
kids.
Children.
Yeah.
University professor.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was a very interesting conversation.
Very interesting, and it does get people. Well, obviously they're thinking now or talking about Lunenburg County, and they kind of sometimes can squint a little bit, like, what is Lunenburg County doing that I need to kind of investigate? Like, this is kind of a bold initiative, and they get very, very surprised and enthused when they learn how we came to this idea and how we funded this idea and how this isn't a government initiative. People get really excited about that, because it's almost like,
well, people have asked for your job. They said, I'd like to do your job.
Yes, I would say, come with me. That would be fun. Yeah, no, it's been really an amazing experience, very surprising and not in other ways. I've been even surprised at real estate prices in other parts of the country. Usually, first thing I do is go to a real estate company and look at the prices on their window. And, and I sometimes think to myself, I couldn't live here. As beautiful as it may be, I couldn't live here based on the real estate prices. And how does one have any, are they able to register their kids in hockey and soccer and dance classes and all this stuff with the prices? So at the same time, I'm pretty honest about what it is that we can't offer them. Right. I feel like we are a community that recognizes the truth and what we can't offer. There's a wonderful in many of the communities public transit, and I share with people that we're working on it. We do have a pilot that we're working on, and hopefully that will serve the needs of the people. But I can't guarantee that when they come we'll have a full-blown service, but I think I'm pretty clear about that. Also, when I go into coffee shops and I explain, we have, some of the most lovely little coffee shops, LaHaye Bakery, for example, Wilds Lake Farm Market, it's a beautiful place. The Barn, a couple of places like that.
Fancy
I share with
Pants
them.
in
Yeah,
Bridgewater,
Fancy Pants. I share what we have. But if I go to someone, for example, I've been to a few places where we may not have something similar to offer. For example, there was a splash pad or whatever with young families. We don't have that right now, but we have the most wonderful beaches. So the beach that they were used to in that community, it pales in comparison to what we have. We're plentiful of. So I'm pretty clear about that. So there aren't any
And we don't
surprises.
have the types of jobs for everybody either.
For sure.
And we say, we try to be pretty clear about that there are opportunities. There may not be opportunities for everyone.
Right.
But there are opportunities, and for many people, thinking that Nova Scotia, and specifically our area, actually is short of people, and the idea that in the future we're going to be in a serious place. Some people understand that,
Yeah.
and others are surprised that we're actually in that place. So those are some of the things that have been reinforced as we talk to people.
I've had that conversation about jobs as well with many people, and when I was in Calgary, I was pretty honest with people about we have jobs in the trades, we have Michelin, we make airplane parts. You may not make what you're used to making here in Calgary, probably not, but you also won't maybe need to make as much as you do in Calgary because our prices are so much less expensive. And I've heard people, it was funny because people said to me, before I left, you have to be honest that, Nova Scotia is an expensive place to live. We pay the taxes and what have you. Well, I was really surprised with food costs here. Like it was quite alarming, some of the food costs in some of the provinces that we've been to. But also, and this may come as a surprise, but some of the road conditions. I feel like it gave me a new appreciation, actually. And so, lots of surprises. Hi there. Hi, Booch. So what, Elspeth, let me ask you this. What do you think we've left in some of these communities, having been here in Orillia, what do you think it is that we may have left here in this community to think about Lunenburg County? Is there anything that you think people are left with, having had us here for 3 weeks or 3 days?
Yeah. So I can only say that I think the experience that we've had in sharing our experience of living in Lunenburg County has been a very positive thing. Like we're leaving a bit of a positive, I think very much a positive image about what our community is like. And and people have told us that, well, you folks are enthusiastic about where you live. But I think we've left an idea with people that hadn't thought about that, but maybe I will. And we've left a trail behind us of information and contact information and a direct link with our community. And for many people, sometimes that's what it takes, is somebody that can help them figure out, if they were thinking about coming to a community, who would you call? If you didn't have a family member or a friend there, it's going to be Tina. They have your name, they have your number, so there is a direct connection. And I think the other thing that we shouldn't underestimate is just the quirkiness of this idea of going across the country and inviting people home to join us. That doesn't, we don't know if anybody's doing that. So for people here and in all the communities you visited, that idea is a bit different, a bit off the wall, a bit bold, as you say, audacious. So maybe that speaks to some of the spirit that has fueled this whole initiative. And for some people, that might be an attraction.
So you're leaving me.
I am, but I'm going to see you at the party.
Yes, can't wait for the party. 8 days, oh my God. And Lynn is joining me. She's going to be great. I can't wait to have Lynn with me. Thank you. I just can't thank you. And I know it's not easy, you leaving your business and leaving Lunenburg County in the summer when it's just so spectacular, but I really appreciate you helping me. You've been amazing, giving me another perspective, another way to form the question, which I'm going to steal.
Yeah,
I like the
well,
directness.
I mean, I think we all have to bring our own our own presence to the kind of the project, and that's been how it's been from the beginning. We each bring our own kind of set of skills and our own personality, and you know, I can only be what I am. It's been really fun. I needed a break, so this has been great. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to, we've spent some time talking about the next steps and have a bit of a plan, and I know when we meet as a core team next week, we're going to be starting to look at that. You and Lynn are going to spend some time on it, and then we're going to give you a break when you get home for a little bit, and then we're going to be right back at it in September.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to all the fall work that will begin around this, following up on the leads that we have, and also helping, and also helping our community understand the significance of this and what are the next steps and how can people get involved. People at large, business community, some of the organizations that already exist in our community, what they can do to support this work and build on it, because we know this is not a one-off thing. We need to figure out what the next few years will bring related to this project.
I can't wait to share with the community. I think that they not only are capable of just doing kind of like listening to what it is that we can give them and share, they're going to be so excited. I just know that they're going to be really thrilled and engaged, and I'm really excited to share what we've learned with the community. So.
I am too, yeah.
Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Good to miss you. That should be a wrap.